Hello, I'm Steve. A little about myself. I'm a retired law enforcement officer with 20 years of service. I began my career in the jail, worked the road, and became an investigator. During my career, my training consisted of everything from SWAT to becoming a state certified crime scene technician. I've investigated crimes from thefts to homicides. After retiring and becoming aware of true crime and web sleuths, I started my channel for web sleuths to better understand the perspectives of law enforcement. Not only do we cover true crime, I go out into the field and assist families who have lost loved ones to homicide and their cases are considered cold. Join me as we look and bring attention to these critical cases. Hello, everyone. Glad you're here tonight. If you're new to the channel, thank you for being here. And as always, we'll have a short presentation after which, and during that presentation, if you have any questions, put it in chat. And while you're in chat, be mindful to be always respectful to families, to the mods, and to each other. And tonight, we're going to be discussing a little bit about some of the witnesses in the newly dropped documents. We had seen where it had been dropped, or parts of it was heavily redacted. Now we have a little bit more clearer understanding of each individual that names are listed. But with those listings of names, we have more information and some pretty shocking information that proof of the confession and things of that nature. And but we're going to be mainly looking at some of the things about the behavioral of Richard Allen and what the witnesses had a common thread about him. And so that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. And with that being said, and also we'll have a video. Whenever the video starts, you'll see that we will kick our stream, not the stream, but our video, the camera part of it, you'll still have the audio, and we're just trying to save bandwidth. We don't, we're back here in the woods, so our bandwidth is not what some of the larger and other channels are. So you just have to bear with us. We appreciate it. But with that being said, if you'll pull up the presentation, of course, if you have any information regarding this case of Libby and Abby, absolutely make sure law enforcement has that information so that we can have justice for Libby and Abby and for the homicide. And if Richard Allen is the one that is responsible for this, and if there's others, then we absolutely need to make that connection and make sure law enforcement is able to, in the pursuit of justice, that everyone involved is facing judgment. All right. Of course, we had the confession part of it, and we did a midnight show last night, and we were talking about it. And so when I was looking at that, it was what type of individual was this? And we had seen where people that had interacted with Richard Allen before the crime and even after the crime, that his demeanor and his actions were as usual. A lot of people described him as someone that was extremely helpful, enjoyed working with, and things of that nature. And of course, we have plenty of social media posts and things of his involvement being out at whatever type of nightlife and social activities he was involved in, from shooting pool to going to a local pub. And but it was all of that, like I said, is out there, and you didn't hear anything that was a indicator before or even after the crime that says, hey, this guy here is there's something wrong. This is the man that we need to focus on. And that is a very interesting fact to me. And that's what we're going to be focusing on tonight, before the fact that the witnesses that had any type of interaction with Richard Allen the day of the trial, that's not how they describe that he's someone that was that he had anything that would make you think that he was trustworthy. Almost all the witnesses said some things about him that set off their alarms. Mrs. Steve, of course, she always looks at the eyes and she says, "Can't trust the eyes, you can't trust man." And so, and she tells me that, and whenever she does, I've always gone by whatever she said, uh, and we've made it 33 years and haven't had an issue with anyone uh, of those people that she has run across, and we've had some people that uh, uh, in our you might cross paths with that you have to be careful of, and I always go by her judgment. It works well for me. Now, when I was on the road and working as an investigator and things, of course, that judgment had to be whatever clues I had to work with, which is a little bit different than some of the female intuition. And I absolutely believe in the female intuition, and I've always trusted it. And I believe that there is such a thing. That's my own opinion, but I do absolutely believe in it, and I've trusted it. That anytime someone tells me uh, from the female perspective that, hey, there's something wrong here, I pay a special heed to it. And that's what you're going to see through this search warrant affidavit. There are certain terms that are used not just by one witness, but multiple witnesses. And we have to start with the video. Law enforcement, when they first let the world know that Libby had created a video, they said that she recognized and she did something that was extremely brave and and smart on her part, as far as that she started taking a video of someone that she was wary of, suspicious of. Something told her that there was something wrong with this individual, and she started taking a video. So we have just by itself that these two young girls, and we're talking about children, not full grown women, but two young girls early on. Of course, I'm sure that uh, their parents at some point had always told them, stranger danger, be wary of your surroundings and things. Don't know if that's true, but hopefully that is. And we can learn from this video of what Libby and Abby that occurred that day, and we can use it as an example of so many things that Libby and Abby did right, and you know, unfortunately, the results was something that was horrible and undeserving for two young kids to be out enjoying a day and such a horrible crime occur. So, just Libby's intuition, and we don't know all the information from what Abby was communicating. Did she sense it also? And was there communications that we are unfamiliar with that maybe some part of the video or off the video, and there's no audio, but there was something going on for Libby to react in this manner. And now we have to look at that there were other uh, young ladies, and we're talking about girls, not adults, and that as they were walking and they met an individual, and we know where the creepy term comes from now, kind of creepy. And that not only did we say this, but what was the actions? What had triggered him on that day to that almost every person of the younger age that he came in contact with, there was an alarm set off. So he was not behaving in the normal fashion that he had pre-crime at his job, that he did in the daylight, and then to the awareness of all the people he worked with or come into his business and those interactions. But there was something that triggered and made him go into a mood that these young children could recognize. And what was that? What triggered him? And I have no idea, but I find that extremely interesting that even in the behavioral science unit, that they were saying that there was something that would have been a trigger. And what was that trigger? And will law enforcement find out? Will Richard Allen eventually tell the world what that trigger was? that put him in such a mood that these children were wary of him and partially put off and maybe even uh, in fright of him because kind of creepy is not a normal term that you put to someone that is that you might meet that out of nowhere that smiles at you, says hello, how are you having a beautiful day, things of that. So there was something about his demeanor that put this one off instantly, and also sent off the alarm for Libby because all of this is within a very short time frame. He was, of course, says that he was there on the trails for quite a long time. But everyone that he met, that we know of, that he had any type of interactions with, there's one of them, of course, uh, that walked out there. But we'll get to her shortly. But then we have another one of the young girls that, when she looked at him, she made the comment and observation that he glared at them. And once again, what put him in that mood and why? I mean, was he putting off the vibes of that he is a predator and that these young ladies are able, independently of each other, to see that, and that this young lady here even told her sister that someone's in a grumpy mood. So, what was his face? You know, motions, and was it a grimace? Was it anger? What about him that was offensive? That put everyone that as they saw him that we need to be careful here, and I find it extremely fascinating that it's not just one; it was several of them. And but will we find out? I hope we do. Um, but then this young lady here, that when she saw him, she recognized this individual is on a mission. He's walking with a purpose. And she described him as knew where he was going. And that opens up a whole a wide of different possibilities because you have to look at something from the CSAM. Was it something that from catfishing? Was and what would put him walking with a purpose down this walking trail on this particular day? What made him go there? What made him park? For the fact that we have to think about it, that it's not something that he parked in the easiest place that's right next to the trails. For those that have been there, you know, you can park right there next to the Freedom Bridge, get out of your car. You can be on Freedom Bridge within a minute and walk across the interstate. And Mrs. Steve will crush your hand as
I don't love that.
she don't like bridges. She hates all bridges. She doesn't like them at all. And but you can get over there. It's a lovely trail now. Back then, I don't know. I know it was a little bit rougher, but now it's absolutely. And we have a video we're going to be showing you, and as it's playing, I'll be discussing some more of this of of what I want y'all to imagine as you're walking this trail. And if you came up on an individual, what would be those warning signs that each of these individuals, what was it that he was walking with a purpose? And I found it, like I said, not just one of them, not two of them, several of them all made this remarkable assessment that this individual here is here for a reason. And then we have that the lady that had walked the trail, and then as she was leaving, she of course had seen Richard Allen on the bridge. But as she was leaving, she saw a vehicle, and she saw something that was odd. And so, even in the measures and the things that Richard Allen did that day, other people saw them, and not even when he was on the scene, they still thought something was odd about that individual in the way that he parked his vehicle and in the location he parked it. And that it wasn't odd for vehicles to be parked there, as she noted that, but it was odd. It was backed in near the building. And so, from that everything that Richard Allen was doing and his demeanor that day and whatever his purpose was that day, he took certain measures that everything alerted everyone that saw him or his vehicle that there's something going on here, and don't understand what it is yet, but there's something going on. And those people were able to convey that message to law enforcement enough that, of course, we remember Doug Carter talking about that we really want to know whose vehicle that was parked at CPS, and why it was parked there. And of course, you can go back and watch all the videos from different channels and the news briefings that he did, and see the focus of law enforcement, because they knew that there was something that these witnesses, and there's other witnesses, even male witnesses that saw it, that gave it that thought that he parked there so that you wouldn't be able to see his tag, and which is, like I said, it's out of the normal. It's odd. It's not what these people normally saw, and so everything about it put the whole world on alert that day. And unfortunately, it was too late for Libby and Abby at the point that they recognized what was going on and what was happening. And then we have that we see that the witness that had saw where the car was parked oddly, and this was, she saw it after she left, but she had seen a male matching the male from, so she had seen Liberty's video and or Libby's video, and said, yes, the male I saw is the male that's on her video. And so we have at least a verification uh, from her verbally acknowledging, yes, this is the same individual. And we have this several times from both her and others. And like I said, she was there, and she says it's the same individual. He was on when I was on the trails, and he was on the bridge. It's the same person on the trails and on the bridge. And we have to absolutely pay attention to this, because this lady here is going to be one of the most key witnesses. Um, all of them are going to be key, especially as prosecution brings up and they try to find out, well, what made you think that he was grumpy? What made you think that he was odd? Um, and uh, and so they, of course, they will have to explain to the court. And of course, after explaining the defense on cross examination, it will be a tricky issue for them going after these young witnesses, because we have so many of them that were different ones that all of them noted something odd about him. And then we know that there was a type of lineup, because there was at least a picture shown of the man on the bridge and to this lady that saw um, um, Richard Allen, or bridge guy, or the offender who was muddy and bloody. And when she's shown the picture of the man on the bridge from Libby's video, she says that's the same person that she saw walking on 300 North, which is huge. And so when you take each of these witnesses and put them together, it pretty well is a huge amount of evidence pointing towards Richard Allen. And when you take his confession and you take all these witnesses, that it's the same man, same man, same man, and he says, I was on the bridge dressed like a bridge guy, and I'm Richard Allen. And so that means that Richard Allen is bridge guy. In my mind, I don't have any doubt of that. So, and then through the search warrant affidavit, of course, they say that this individual on the bridge is the person that is responsible for the homicide of Libby and Abby. And how does the defense defend this? I have no idea. Do I believe it? You know, every time I look at it, and as I look in these things of what these witnesses bring forward, and I think about it being presented to a jury, it is going to be a very difficult case for the defense, regardless of all the evidence. But it just on what we know now, we don't know what all the evidence. We don't have all the lab reports, and we don't know what advances in science may occur even before court gets here, because there's still a lot of opportunity for the advancement, because this case may take another year or so, and during that year, is law enforcement still looking for other evidence? Absolutely. Is there a possibility of new evidence being discovered? Absolutely, yes. And they'll never stop searching. That's how come it's so important that we pay attention to this case and bring all the information that's available to the public. All righty. Do we have any questions?
I think you got one.
Okay.
But we're going to start with a blue light.
Cecil Hotel, $3 super sticker. Thank you for your support.
Thank you
Appreciate
so much. And then another blue light for Brenda Birkenback, giving 1 membership, and Monique won it. So thank you so much for that.
Appreciate y'all's support. Couldn't do this, and what we're about, let's see, just over a week, I'll be back on the road. Got a big month of travel in July, and got a lot of work to do, and can't do it without the support. Thank you.
All right. And from Molly at True Crime Web, if you have the time, can you explain how an expert can know the difference between what a 6-hour P226 slide hatchet sounds like versus, say, a similar S&W?
I haven't. I took the. I borrowed a 226, and I borrowed a couple of them actually, and worked the slides, and I never really went through the sound. And I have different models of firearms, and that would be very interesting. So that would be a great test for me to do, of what with what is it, Audacity or whoever we use, and I will do a sound test and see what that is. That is an interesting thought. So we'll be checking on that. And I do have Smith and Wessons. I have Berettas. I have Walther. Just have a brand new one, Walther now. And what else? I don't know. Huh? No, I got Glock. Mrs. Steve knows more about my guns than I do. So that tell you anything?
I gotta live with you.
Yep.
All right. And from Ramona, I heard someone say the other day that they believe he was very drunk, functional but drunk. Have you heard that?
Now, does under the influence play parts in crimes? Absolutely. And are there certain things, and is that what triggered him on this particular day? It's possible. I haven't heard it specifically about this case that he was or not. And there may be evidence of that. I don't know what it is. I haven't heard. And like I said, it does play a part with this type of offenders, that there is often some type of intoxicant. It's not always alcohol, although there are a large part of this type of offenders that do abuse many different types of intoxicants. So it is possible.
All right, you got a couple more popping in. And from Molly, do you think the quote fur-like, end quote, lined clothing item, hat maybe, could be the animal hairs or fibers? Cheap faux fur sheds like crazy.
Well, we know that in the past they were looking, from the FBI warrants, that they were specifically looking for animal hair, and in the experts that's in that field, they can tell the difference between fibers and hairs, but it doesn't mean that it couldn't be some type of real article of clothing that is part of some designer wear made from animal skin and hair, but I just don't know if it's from some type of fur-lined clothing or not. I don't know if he owns any of that, but it's very possible. It could be, but I don't. I wouldn't think that any of the experts would be confused by any of the fibers possibly being hair.
And Lee, wonder if they would sound differently with the sound recorded on a cell phone.
I'm going to do that test also. I've got things since Molly brought that. I've got things bouncing off in my head right now. Mrs. Steve, that's what she's doing with her blog now. Uh, and actually, you got one coming out tomorrow on your blog, don't you?
Because you never know what I'm going to wake up to. All right. And history underfoot. Excuse me. Did he have interaction online with the girls and they somehow made him angry?
And that's a good point. And it is possible that it would be something along those lines, and it could have happened. For the fact that we know through the Keegan Klein and Anthony Schott's account that there was some catfishing going on. And as we've discussed in the past, sometimes when you're the victim of one, you can be the victim of multiple people that will join in. Ever how they find that these kids are accessible, and they go into these social media platforms, and they find these victims, and they start grooming them for the different types of crimes or connections or what they want from them, which is absolutely unbelievable. But it is possible that that could be, for the fact that we have some of these witnesses, like I said, they say he was grumpy, he was creepy, he was walking with a purpose. And, what would cause an individual that everyone, or not everyone, but most of the people, the majority of the people you met on that trail that day, were alerted to that they did not wish to have an encounter with you. So it's very strange.
Okay. All right. And J Farm 13 at True Crime Web. In your opinion, do you think this was a targeted, planned event, or they said or did something to set him off?
Um, I do believe it, from the early on that it was a planned event, and uh, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. For the fact that from the moment he showed up, from the moment he arrived, and the moment he parked his vehicle, he parked it for a purpose. He parked it where his tag couldn't be seen, and which brought suspicion onto his vehicle. And the vehicle couldn't be readily identified because there were several people saw it, and the descriptions were similar, but they were very different models and makes. And so, just from the way and the odd manner he parked his vehicle, it appears that he was planning that when he went there, there was going to be something that occurred that day. And like I said, it's if it humans by nature always try to take the path of least resistance and the path of least amount of exertion of any physical activities. And so they park where it's very convenient to a walking trail. They don't take those extra measures um, and to hide their plates and park out of way place. Um, but even the people that parked over there at the CPS building, as one witness said, that it was common for people to park there. And it's not really, it doesn't really add on probably maybe a couple hundred, a few hundred feet more to your walking than normal. But with that being said, we're going to walk down the trail. I'm going to remove our camera. I'm going to stop the cam, and then I'm going to start a video. And I'll still answer questions and talk. But as this video plays, I want you to play in your own mind that when I made this video, I was just walking down the trail from where the lady parked at the Mears parking lot across from the farm there, and as she walked to the bridge, it's only just around 500 yards, a little bit more, from the time that at that intersection of of the Mears parking lot to the the start of the Monon High Bridge. And there's really only two sections of it. You can, from the time that you get on that Mears parking and you look down, you can see that the trail curves a little bit to your left. And so you can see almost halfway down this trail. And so when you get on that to the midway point, when you go around that little bend, you can start seeing the bridge, and you'll see that in here. And so that no point are you really that isolated from either that final parking lot or from the bridge. And so you would be able to see pretty much almost all the way. If it wasn't for that little bend, you could easily see the bridge from the mirrors. But we'll bring that up. And when this starts, you'll see that I walked this 500 yards. And let me take my camera, stop it so that we have plenty of stream width, bandwidth. But as I was walking down this trail, you can see it's very similar time of year. I think I was there within a week or two of the of when Libby and Abby when that crime occurred, and it's now it's absolutely beautiful. But you can see all the way to the furthest point from here is about the midway point. It only takes a few minutes to walk this 500 yards. And so as you walk down this trail, you can see clearly to either side during this time of year. There's no place really to hide. The trees aren't that large. There's some little ravines and things, but with the ground cover and things, like I said, it's a very peaceful walk. And I can see why the lady that parked at Mears would get out and walk this. And, by the time you walk to the bridge and back, you basically had a half-mile little walk and what everyone at that time thought was a very safe environment. But the point of this, as you was walking, and if you had some type of demeanor, and that everyone that you met as you're taking this stroll down this trail, that they had bad thoughts about you, what was it that you were doing that alerted everyone that you met on this little trail? And even back then, the trail was narrower; it wasn't as well kept, and so you would be even closer to them. But everyone that he met as he took this little stroll on this path. Now, the path, when he had interactions with them, it was on further back, closer to Freedom Bridge. But it's still the same environment. It's still that as he ran across people, their intuition told them that this isn't something or someone I really like to be around. And I find that extremely interesting. Now we're getting there almost to the midway point. You can go back and play this video, and I have another video, but you can go back and play this, and you can see that um, uh, this slow, it's just a normal walk for me. I had the drone up in front of me going as I went. And right down here, as you go around this little curve to the left, you'll start seeing where you can see all the way to where the new benches are at the on the updates of the bridge. And now when you walked it, would you have any problems walking that trail by yourself, or would you not?
I ain't going out there by myself.
Okay.
Really?
Well, I didn't know.
No.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I guess the Glock on one side.
Oh yeah, well armed, she'll go anywhere.
Oh,
Yeah. But as you walk around this little curve, like I said, it's a very pleasant place. I enjoy walking it, but uh, um, she's more of a city girl, and I'm just old country boy.
yeah.
But now you can start seeing it. And so the witness that will saw Richard Allen on that bridge at this point, she would start becoming aware, and she will have just passed, or she's past midway point. And from this point here, when she approaches the bridge, whenever she turns around, if she met Libby and Abby depends on their rate of walk. That when she turned around and left, who she's identified as a person as looking like what Richard Allen described he was wearing, that more than likely about that time is when, if they were, Libby and Abby was walking towards her, they were uh, basically at each one of them was at the parking lot. She turned around at the bridge because she said somewhere around the midpoint, she ran and met up with them. And we just don't know what the pace of each of the individuals were. We don't know what the witness's pace was. Um, and but she didn't. This witness here, as she approached Richard Allen, and here, of course, she would absolutely have a clear view. It was different then. I think there were some obstructions across some type of um, gate almost, but she would clearly be able to see Richard Allen at this point. And when you get up here to where the concrete is where um, you can say from her testimony or her interview that that's where she stopped, about 50 feet away from of Richard Allen. And so she was able to have a very clear view of him as she approached the bridge. And her intuition didn't tell her to stop. She went all the way up to within 50 feet of him. That's 15. That's just over 15 yards. Um, but of course, he's out there on the bridge and she's there at the edge. Now with a new bridge and like say with a railing, as you approach, I haven't measured where this first little jut out on the right is, but it's going to be pretty close to where that first platform. And is it designed to show that? Um, I um, um, I would expect that they did it for a reason, but I don't know if that's true or not. But when you get out here, and like I said, that's a beautiful view. I can see why people would want to walk it that are not worried about being by themselves. And I would always suggest that before you go walking anywhere, make people aware of where you're going, how long you're going to be gone, and travel in groups. Um, and that's something that Libby and Abby did. There was two of them. You wouldn't expect that they would run across trouble, but unfortunately they did. No, this is the real bridge now. This is not simulation, Black Widow. This is the actual bridge. I went out and I created this video. You'll see it on Chris's channel too. Chris has this. I gave him that. He can use it for whatever purposes he wishes. I enjoy working with Chris. That's over at the Mob Crew. Um, but as you like I said, you can see just straight to the side here is where around that bend up the creek is where they were found. The crime scene itself was at. But I just wanted to, like I said, if you go back and you time it from the time that this video here today to the time that I get to the bridge, you'll see it's just over 3 minutes, something around 4 minutes, a 500-yard walk, just over a 500-yard walk. And so that, you know, uh, so when that witness turned around and started walking back, that it's odd that Richard Allen saw that he proclaims he saw no one else. He didn't see the witness that saw him on the bridge, and he did not see Libby and Abby. Although the witness that saw him on the bridge turned around and within 2 minutes met Libby and Abby, and that was the last time they were ever seen, and Richard Allen was ever seen on the bridge because no one else saw him on the trails that day from that moment on. And so where was he? He doesn't have an alibi. He doesn't have where he was. He says he was on the bridge. And so we have to give a lot of weight to that testimony. All right. Let's remove that. And now I got to start the camera. That's what I'm doing. There we go. All right. So we're back. But I just wanted to show y'all that video and try to get y'all to look at it and understand what was his demeanor that alerted all these young girls to that he was up and for a purpose. And all right. Anything else?
I got some more.
Okay.
Okay. And let's see here. We got some blue lights going on in here.
All right.
We've got Copper Cowgirl as a member. We appreciate that.
Thank you. Appreciate your support.
We've got Black Widow. Widow.
Yes, $10 super sticker. Thank you. Appreciate your support.
Thank you so much. We appreciate that. And let me do this. Let's see here. You already answered that one. And from Todd, because you're an expert, do you think there are any issue with these witnesses and their potential testimony?
I don't know if I'm an expert, but I had a pretty good career in law enforcement. But thank you for that kind statement. Do you think there's any issue with their witnesses and their potential testimony? No. It's documented, and of course, the witnesses may they'll have the ability to refresh their testimony. They'll be gone over, but no, I do not think that there will be any issue. But like I said, I find it extremely odd, and I can see why law enforcement would be focusing so much, and how they missed all these witnesses saying what they've said. That we saw a grumpy man, we saw someone that was um, uh, that was walking with a purpose. Now, of course, they described him, and they were showing pictures of, and it was Bridge Guy. We just didn't know it was Richard Allen at that point. And then when Richard Allen came forward, that one key tip that Carter always wanted was there. And back in September of 2022, the investigators came across that one tip that had been sitting there for a long time, for the whole time period, and they made the connection. Thankfully, they made the connection.
Okay. That one. And Hope 8 Fear.
Okay.
I hope that's it. New member.
Okay.
Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
joining. We
Appreciate it. Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. And Todd just answered. And from Molly. If an expert can differentiate the sound, do you think the audio is much better than what was portrayed by LE and how it sounds on Guys Down the Hill?
You know, I don't know. They sent this to. They said that law enforcement looked at it. I think it was NASA and Disney, and with probably the best equipment out there that they could at the time. And but always the first generation, and what format, and was it compressed, and then because they say that certain things happens when it's sent to the cloud and then brought back. I don't know. But I'm about to find out the differences in the audio, both from the phone versus um, audio in different video formats. So I'm gonna check on that. That's an interesting test.
Mm-hmm.
I love you guys. Y'all come up with some interesting questions.
Y'all make him work.
Yes, Mrs. Steve gets to talk about that too.
I sure do. All right, and let's see here. Where is it? And Mark.
Hey, Mark. Actually, Mark, look forward to seeing you in probably 2 to 3 weeks. I'll be up there, and we're gonna have that coffee together. I'm gonna try every way in the world. I keep putting you off, but we're gonna get together.
All right, and from Paula. Excuse me. I just got here. Sorry if someone already asked. Did you find it strange that he took a picture of his daughter on that bridge? She also had a similar look to Libby.
And there's discrepancies of when that picture was made. Some say it was made before, some say it was made after. I don't know what the data on that picture is. Law enforcement does. And they would have spoken to her and found out when it was and who took it and what was the context of it being taken. If because it has separate meanings if it's taken before versus if it was taken after.
Frank is in the chat.
Hello, Frank. Good to see you, sir.
Let's see here. All right, let me stop there and I'll go get some more. All right, and from Karen, do you think RA was one of those bothering Libby online?
That is a possibility. And if all these phones, and if any of these phones are linked to that time period that he has, hopefully law enforcement has the technologies to look into that and see if there is some type of link from some of those phones or those accounts that would have been through the years. Don't know if that, because I don't understand. That's above my pay grade of what when the technology part. We have enough issues with these Google machines. I can't tell you what everything that they could do with a phone, but he absolutely. It appears that if those are all his phones and not other family members or other phones or burner phones, there's a lot of interesting things that can account or possibilities of what those phones are and what that might lead to.
All right. USA Libertarian at True Crime Web. One of the legal documents said, quote, the man is heard and seen saying, quote, down the hill. Do you think that's a typo or can they really have him up close on video?
Yes, they could have him up close on video, but what part of him up close on video? I don't know. Was Libby trying to hide that she had the? We don't know. Law enforcement would know because they've seen the whole video, and I'll be glad when we get to see the whole video because that's going to clear up all of this information. And hopefully, when the trial gets here, if it goes to court, we'll get to see that whole video, and we'll just have to see what that is. Great question.
And from Eileen, is the entrance to bridge on north or south side?
I'm going off of memory. I believe the entrance is on the north side.
Okay. And history underfoot. My number one question about the case is how did he know they would be on the bridge at that time? How was this arranged? I think it was planned. Second burning question, did he take photos?
Yes. And, and photos is mentioned not only in the FBI's affidavit for the Logan property, but they make mention of it in the search warrant affidavit for the Allen properties. And it is common. And so they, did he take photos? It is possible, especially with these technologies. And is that some reason why he would not get rid of phones? But planning an event and then going, because a lot of people, a lot of criminals go out there with the intent that they're going to go out and possibly rob an individual or rob someone. And they may not have someone picked out specifically, but they will have a specific area. And if that victim enters into that ambush point at a particular time with certain parameters that there's no one else in sight, we're the only ones. I have them shut off from any escape, and they're at this point, and they're vulnerable. And I'm, I have surprised. I have a weapon, and I can maintain control. You can plan, and you may not have a you have someone in your mind that if they meet certain criteria, you're going to target them. Is that what happened on this day? And did Libby and Abby enter into that and become targeted at that specific moment? Or was it something that from some other encounter and he knew they were going to be there? So you can plan crimes and it can be a chance encounter. or it can be that it's a planned encounter, and I don't know which one it is on this particular one.
All right, let's see here. Okay. All right, and from Molly, do you have a theory on why KA continues to come to court following confession? Lawyers confused her. Supporting RA's mother doesn't want the DP for his mom and her daughter.
Yeah. Well, you know, relationships, and there's a lot of things that can go into a relationship. And we now know that he's even told her that he's the responsible party. Does she believe him? Or does she say, no, I'm with the attorneys. This is something that he's not capable of? Or is she just, I mean, I don't know. I know that if I ever uh, did anything of this proportion and I Mrs. Steve, I can tell you where Mrs. Steve would be. She'd be over there with the prosecutor and, and it's done. And so I just, there's a lot of different syndromes and other things that can occur to some of these victims, and that they will always believe and support um, their spouse, and right or wrong. And I don't know. Like I said, that's above my pay grade also.
Hmm. Okay, and blue light.
Oh,
For
Kamala
Kamala.
Nars, $10. Thank you. Best advice I got at 12, 13-year-old and gave my girls: if someone pulls a sidearm on you, fight, fight, fight. They'll fire because you don't want to go to the second. Yes, going to the second location, very few people ever return. Yes. And I had the same conversation um, with baby Steve and Mrs. Steve, that you do not leave that first location, no matter what you have to do, even if you had, vehicle, wreck the vehicle. Wherever you're at is better than the second locations. It just doesn't work out for you.
Alrighty. Take that. Let me go back to the top. Get Molly.
But appreciate it.
Kamala.
Oh, yeah, Kamala.
And Susan, I'm late, so you may have answered this, but did Alan have a criminal record at all? The
Uh-huh.
offender stuff?
No, not that we are aware of. Now, does he have a history of it? And there could be a possibility that he has a unknown history of certain things. We just, like I said, that will always bother me, not knowing that what triggered him and what could have triggered him in the past, for the fact that it's so unreasonable that you have an individual that can act in this manner both pre-crime and go back into that same behavior post-crime, and not let the world know what he had committed and done, and go about his life. That shows you an individual that has a dark side that is absolutely unknown to the world and has the capability to hide that post-crime, and that takes a certain type of individual, and it's not normal.
And from Anne, Mr. Steve, likely the full witness statements contain a lot more about what they observed of the BG, don't you think? For example, they may have had something to say about he seemed inebriated.
Uh, it's not in any of. It may be in some of these documents. I haven't read all the documents. Still, I'm extremely busy on so many different levels. But um, none of the, they say he's walking with a purpose. Nobody's mentioned anything about him um, um, being appeared to be under the influence as he was walking. He's grumpy, or having a bad day, uh, things of that nature. But we don't have where anyone says that he was staggering, he smelled of alcohol or any of that, or he seemed intoxicated. That's not what these witnesses said. They said that there was someone that alerted them that this is an individual that was having a bad day and he was on a mission or walking with a purpose.
Mhm. Okay. 53. And Monique, did R.A. confess to his wife recently?
April, I know that now. Has he continued and has he started? And there's a lot of different ways that he could communicate that. It can be by phone calls. It can be by letters. Although all the communications outside are, you know, highly restricted and they're watched and letters are read both ways. And other than with the attorneys, that's the only confidentiality that's out there. And so has he confessed since April? I don't know.
Okay. And M. Cunningham, do you think R.A. confessed before he could be charged with other murders?
Um,
Homicides.
uh, no, I don't think that's because that wouldn't have any bearing on other homicides. Each of them stand alone. Now, of course, it won't mean that these others can be brought up to in this one trial. There has to be certain hearings of similar acts and conduct. But no, I don't think that was why he would have confessed.
And from Gail, did you go through the court docs?
Not all, no, no, I haven't. I'm. If you knew what my schedule was right now, and we're trying to get so much done for other things, um, I had.
You started on them.
I've started on them, and thankfully, I have some great uh, members and a community, and they sent me certain docs to look at, and that these are the important ones, these are the keys, and so I looked at those, and there's a lot more of them out there that I haven't looked at, but I'm going to look at every single one of them, even the ones that are um, just documents that are submitted by the defense, especially the ones that anything that the defense wants suppressed. I have a lot of it I want to look at for the fact that that tells me what the defense is extremely worried about and what they don't want to face.
And from Lee, Mr. Steve, would the area sounds make a difference? Like, would you need to be in the exact same spot of the incident or just anywhere similar?
Probably similar. I mean, you can look up weather conditions, make sure the humidity is correct, air temp, things of that nature. And as long as you try to do everything that's very similar, you can even have the wind conditions. Um, and so there's always certain parts of the country that there may be echoes and things, but we're only talking about the racking of a firearm within a certain distance, and I'll be able to replicate some of that, and I'll try to do it with as consistent um, information as what I can find historically of the conditions for that day.
Okay, had that one. And blue light for Shelley.
Um, Thank you. Since I was a little girl, my mom always ingrained in me, I love you. If you ever do anything against your nature, I will not stand by you. Absolutely. Mrs. Steve is 100% with your mother on that.
Yes, I am. All right, let's see here. 8:58. I am so far behind. Okay. And True Crime Talk with Frank Meister. Steve, what is your thought on BG possibly being already at the south side and came back and passed the girls on the bridge?
Um, I've looked at it both ways, and at one point I thought that, but um, after in the timeline of what occurred and the pictures made by um, Libby. When she first gets on the bridge, she goes out there and she already takes a picture of the full length of the bridge. You don't see anybody. And then, of course, she takes the picture of Abby and you don't see anyone behind. So it leaves you up. Where is BG? Is he already across the bridge? And within that 2 minutes, and the reason I don't think he crossed the bridge is that the fourth witness that saw Richard Allen on the bridge, she turns around and she only is 2 minutes away from Richard Allen when she sees the girls, and so the girls only have 2 minutes to get uh, back to the bridge, and they would have seen him, and I think that 2 minutes isn't enough time for Richard Allen to get all the way across the bridge and out of sight. So I think that he was following back and walking the same trail as that last witness or the witness that saw him on the bridge. And I think that he bypassed Libby and Abby and he had to make a decision. Do I continue to follow the woman to Mears or do I take advantage or even possibly that, oh, these are the two girls I was waiting on? There's so many variables, not saying that's what it was, but there's certain weight I will give that I think that he was following that one witness back and then possibly targeting her and then changed his target back to Libby and Abby, regardless if he was waiting on them prior to.
And Todd, RA made so many mistakes, actually, really stupid ones, as if he wanted to get caught almost. Considering that, believe it's possible he wanted to get caught, or stupid and inexperienced or not sober?
Well, he got away with it for almost over 5 years, almost six. And so, yes, and all criminals make mistakes. It's just that depends on if law enforcement finds those mistakes and there's some type of evidence that they're able to link. Um, but yeah, yes, stupid. Any criminal and or they're narcissistic, or if he wanted to be caught, all he had to do at any point from that first interaction with the conservation officer is say, "Hey, I was on the bridge that day, and it was me." Or he could have, at any point during the 5 years, made a call, uh, called in a tip, and said, "Hey, check out Richard Allen. He was on the bridge that day," and he did it. I mean, there's a lot of different ways that if he wanted to get caught, he could have got caught, and we don't know that occurred.
Wanda, why wasn't the trail and bridge finished?
I don't know why it hasn't been finished, and will it be finished, or is this the whole extent of it? I don't know.
Mm. All right. And from Anna, my theory of the crime is that the killer was drunk but functional, and something about those girls triggered a terrible impulse. Maybe he always had dark fantasies when he hiked.
And yes, and I agree with you. And I think that, um, but he was preparing for whatever was occurring for the fact of the steps that he took of where he parked his vehicle. And now, is that his normal behavior? And we'd have to find out. Uh, you know, other witnesses said that they've seen vehicles parked there, but not backed in and odd in that fashion. That doesn't mean that Richard Allen didn't routinely park in that exact same place in that same manner. And if he parked that way consistently every time, then of course that's just how. Because there are a lot of people that refuse to pull into a parking space. That they will back into a parking space so they can pull straight out. And that can be true. And there's a lot of people that do that. And so it may not be odd to what Richard Allen normally does, but it did set up that there there were certain alarms went off that day, and regardless, it served his purpose. Um, that was he triggered prior to, or did he get triggered on the trail that day? Hopefully, he'll tell us one day.
And Victoria, what was the caliber?
40 cal, from my understanding, 40 cal.
And Joey, Steve, have you seen the chopper and audio video from Delphi? If so, do you believe the girls were found in the river? Because it looks to me like bodies were in the river.
I don't believe so, but I mean, no. Everything I've looked at some of those, and I don't believe that they're accurate. That's just my opinion of it. Everyone will have differing opinions, but I don't think that's so.
And Vicki Ann, Mr. Steve, do you think RL had something to do with this?
It drives you crazy because he got an alibi, and it does drive you crazy that he went and got an alibi for the time period. But no, I don't believe that he was involved. That's just my personal opinion, but I don't believe he was involved.
And from Anna, specific word in the legal documents is that he, quote, admitted, end quote, killing the girls. That is not the same as a confession. Without details, it might not mean as much as it appears. True?
It's semantics of what does admitted, because I've been in court and I've used that word, that yes, they confessed to me or they admitted to me, and I've used them both in court. And I guess if you look in whatever the definition of the word, and there probably are differences, but I've used both those words in court, so I don't know of how the court will look at it. And I understand that, and I've always looked at that we need some details of the crime that are only known by the offender. Will he ever? Because there's a lot of people are convicted with far less than having those details. And we may see that with this case for the fact that we have an individual that he has admitted to them. But not only did he just admit to them, but there's a bullet from his a firearm that's been examined by an expert for the state that says that's his gun that was at the scene. And and he's admitted to wearing the same clothing that bridge guy was. He says he was on the bridge. He is admitted to that. And and he admitted being there when the girls were during that time period when they went up missing. He hasn't admitted to ever seeing the girls. He hasn't admitted to seeing the witness, the final witness. He has admitted to seeing the other girls who says that there was a grumpy or a person with a purpose walking. So, what is the final say on that? We'll find out when the jury hears it. But that's a fair point. Admitted and confession is two different things.
Okay. And from Todd, I'll make it really easy for you, Steve. 2 dots proves he's guilty. The other 100 plus are motions to suppress that.
Oh, that's a great statement. Appreciate that, Todd.
Love it. Love it. Love it. All right. And Michaela, question. Are you on your back over there? I'm not sure I get that. Walking the, I don't know.
Michaela, question. Sure. Are you on your back over there? No, I don't know.
Don't know. All right. And Joey, Steve, do you think KK will be charged in the Delphi murders?
I always thought that there was something odd, and I still think. I mean, the coincidences of what he did, and is Kagan Klein guilty of what he did with Olivia, and saying that he catfished them, and if certain things occurred, and as far as CSAM, and he played a part in this, regardless of if he was at the scene that day or otherwise, of preying upon young children. But I just don't know. I've always there's the possibility that he is further involved in this, but there's also the possibility that he may have tried to set up a meeting with Libby and Abby that day, and someone else saw that meeting and said, "Oh, this is an opportunity that it gives me, that if they show up and I can get to them before he meets them, I can commit a crime and it can be blamed on him." I don't know if that's the case, but that is always something that law enforcement would look at.
Okay. And from Molly, when something is put in the PCA, does the judge want to see it first before they'll sign off on it? Like see the video, audio, confession?
Yes, and sometimes, and I've been there, where um, you have everything written out in your probable cause, and the judge reads something, and he wants clarification. He wants uh, verbal, or he wants additional testimony. And of course, you're sworn in from the moment that you get there. You're swearing to what you're presenting to the judge is accurate, and you give as much detail as you can. But sometimes judges look at it, and they due to your writing abilities, you may not make it absolutely clear of certain points, and the judge will want clarification on that. And and once you give them that, they'll sign off on it. It's not that hard to get a search warrant. It's not that hard to get an arrest warrant. It's just probable cause.
And from Michaela, are you going back to Delphi soon?
I will be passing through in a couple of weeks. I've got to go up to Evansdale, and I've got to meet with Larry in South Indiana. Then I got to meet with a cold case family I'm working on, and then I'll be passing through Delphi, either on the way up or on the way back, and um, I will be stopping for a day or two. I don't know what the final schedule is yet, but I'll let y'all know. Thank you.
And Gail gifted 5 memberships.
Oh, thank you, Gail. Appreciate that.
We appreciate that.
Absolutely.
All right. And Joan, Steve, do you think it's strange that after being seen so clearly by that witness and girls, he still went ahead with the murders? They may not know him. They may know him from CVS. He needed to get it done, targeted.
And that is strange. Absolutely. Because he saw them, he knew he'd saw them, he admitted to seeing them, and one of them says that he was walking with a purpose. And so I get your point exactly, that he was there for a purpose. And what was it? What triggered him? Was it alcohol? As other people say, that it could be a functional person that is under the influence. Absolutely. Um, I have no idea, but like I said, I look forward to seeing the trial or some type of admission of what was his purpose and were they targeted.
All right. And Kamala, why do you think LE didn't play more of the video saying he would like to talk with this man?
That's another aggravating thing.
That has really bothered you.
Yes. Why did they just do that small 1.8 seconds of a loop and play it over and over and over, of not even a 2 steps, just that one and a half step of what's going on there. And yes, that is, it's whatever part of their strategy and why they did that. I still think there was some type of editing on that video. I may be absolutely 100% wrong, but I believe that there was something possibly such as a firearm edited out.
Okay, and Kelt, but wave. But why was the lady who saw him on the bridge mentioned in the PCA, but not mentioned in the released docs from yesterday?
I think some of, I believe she is. If I'm not, I think, hold on, let me pull it back up. Um, Blair, um, I believe, is the one that says that uh, she saw him on the bridge, and it's in here also. They just said her name's in there now versus the other time it was redacted. If I'm understanding your question correctly, but but the who saw him on the bridge, and she's in this PCA on this document. Now there may be other documents she's not mentioned in.
Alrighty. And history. Do you think his wife hung up on his confession out of disgust or to stop him from talking on a recorded call?
Either way,
Both.
it could be. It could. It could be. And like she may have said it. Absolutely, it could be both. And is it that she still supports him and she didn't want to hear that, or she didn't want to hear ramblings, and that it doesn't mean that just because he says it means that he did it. I don't know. We don't know what triggered him to commit such a crime if he is the one responsible, and we don't know what triggered him to make those admissions or that confession to individuals, because we have other um, where he's confessed the attorneys spoke of, and we don't know the details behind that and what information uh, and how it was said and in what context. We don't have all that information yet.
And left-handed RN. Why do you think the investigators put out that second sketch that looked way younger than the original sketch?
That gave me a headache, still gives me a headache. Even the description of the age, just I have they change, and as Carter said, that you never expected us to change gears or whatever it was, or new direction. Um, and he was correct. I never, um, saw that they would change the strategy that they had in such a manner, and go in this new direction. Did it progress the case? I I don't think so.
All right. And from Ashley, do you think Tony Klein had any part in it also? I always suspected him because of his background.
No, I don't. I don't know that much about him. Everything in Kegan Klein, Anthony Schott's account, I put more um, possibilities with him. But as far as Tony, I, I don't know anything about him. And um, law enforcement hasn't really focused on him that I know of. Now they probably did investigations to verify if he was involved. Um, doesn't mean that it's not a possibility, but I don't think personally he had any involvement in it.
And from Wanda, after 7 years, why would he admit to it?
You know, people sometimes, for whatever reason, they do. Uh, I've seen it. I've had people that I've interviewed and spoke to them 5, 6, 7 interviews, and then all of a sudden, a month later, while they're sitting back there waiting on um, uh, trial, they'll send me a note and say, "Hey, I need to talk to you," and then they just out of nowhere they'll confess. I've had it happen, and don't know what changed, don't know what triggered them. Went and talked to him, was happy to get a confession, and never thought, well, what changed your mind? Sometimes it happens.
All right, and let's see here. Let's see here if we got anything. And from Katie Lynn, what is a PCA?
Probable cause affidavit. You can have them for search warrants. You can have them for arrest warrants, but you have to have a probable cause affidavit to get the courts and the judge to sign off before you go in and search properties or before you take or arrest someone on certain charges.
All right. And from Joey, Steve, now that LE has said that KK is involved in a whatever, do you think the people in the whatever sent RA to kidnap the girls?
No, I really don't. And I saw where there's people that have went down that rabbit hole, but I don't believe. I take it as something more simpler, especially if Richard Allen is a lone wolf.
And a blue light for left-handed RN.
Thank you, left-handed RN. That's a great name. Thank you for your support.
So much. All right, now let me glance right here. All right, you're done.
All right, guys, I appreciate it. Everything y'all, all the questions, and thank everyone that's here and anyone that's new to the channel. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe, share, and we appreciate it. And we can't do what we do without all our support. And we thank y'all so much. Y'all stay safe out there. And I'm on the road this weekend for a few hours, for a day or two. I will probably go live from a different state on Saturday.
Without me?
But you may be, yeah. But and I'll let y'all know, Mrs. Steve, whether she gives a thumbnail or she gives a community post of where I'm at. But y'all stay safe. Appreciate everything y'all do for me and this channel and for these co-case families. Thank y'all. Stay safe.